If you have found your way to this channel, you must be a lover of stories, myths, and legends. This is Solas Baha, Scots Gaelic for light of life. It is a place to rest, to wonder, and to remember what the old stories still have to teach. Welcome, dear one. I'm Lily Christensen and sometimes go by Grandma May. Here at Solas Baha, we return to the old paths, to stories shaped by firelight, carried through the centuries and remembered in the marrow of the bones. Welcome to my whispering series, where I bring you to a magical place somewhere in nature and read my own fantasy novel, Beyond Trivar, in soft, soothing whispers, like a fae gently calling through the ages. So sit back in your most cozy, safe place, with your favorite blanket and maybe a nice warm drink, and let me inspire magical peace and rest while grand adventures play out in the mystical world of Trivar. When we last left Jaden and Zechariah, they had left a riotous party and were talking about Jaden's past in Yamis, her history with the pirates, and feeling like she was never fully loved there, something Zechariah couldn't understand because he had been adored. So you never learned to like it in Yamis? I loved the beauty in Yamis, though the jaguars always scared me. I loved being by the sea. I loved Justine, and when you came along, I loved you. But I always felt displaced there, like I did not belong. I always wanted to know where I was from. In fact, when I was about 5, I remember my maidservant chastening me. Jaden, you must not ask your mother those questions again. You hurt her. I pressed, but I want to know why my hair is red and everyone else's is black. Why is my skin like cream and yours like cocoa? You asked Tala that? I never worried about what color my skin was, Zechariah said. Of course, you had a mother and father who looked just like you. I didn't know it was wrong or how offensive it was like I do now. I was only told those are the kinds of questions you can't ask. Generally, Tala would defend my right to ask questions because she wanted me to be an intelligent queen, but not those questions. I remember a day when I was especially persistent in asking why I was different, and she said sternly, I like that you ask questions, but when it comes to who you are, all that matters is that you are a princess of Yamis, nothing else. Yet I persisted. But where do the pirates bring me from? I remember Tala looking down at me. She always kept her distance as she would with one of her servants. Let me tell you something. Tala took my hand so that I would keep up with her long strides and led me outside. I vividly remember walking through the jungle into the open sunlight of the beach, and then to the edge of the sea and wishing that I could see where I came from. I asked something like, did I come from out there? All she said was, you were sent here to be our next queen and for no other purpose. The only place worth anything in all of Trivar is Yamis. You are lucky the pirates brought you here. We have everything. Food grows by itself. The sea and the jungle provide all our meat. Our warriors protect us from the inlanders. And pirates are our friends. You are here to enjoy the splendors of this land and become a queen. Do you understand? I did understand. I wasn't to ask the questions that meant the most to me because Tala didn't have an answer for me or didn't want me to upset her peace. I looked quietly out to the sea, wishing I could see more and feeling like a lid was shut on my core desires. But I did the only thing a 5-year-old has power to do. I looked sadly into Tala's eyes and nodded my head yes. Tala looked not unkindly upon me, but even as young as I was, I never desired to be close to her again. It was shortly after that Tala became pregnant with Talu, and everything changed. I remember a servant saying sadly to me, "Well, looks like you will have a little brother or sister in a short time. What will that make you?" I didn't understand at the time, but it became quite clear as the months and years passed. How did you stand it? I don't know. I remember a day when Talu was just learning to roll from his tummy to his back, and from his back to his tummy. Everyone sat in the large hut watching him for hours. I got so bored. Luana and Arabetta were bored as well and began teasing me about my red hair and freckles. I hated them. On days like that, I usually asked to go see Justine. No one cared much, and I usually got to go. But that day, they wanted me to stay and be happy about Talu's milestone. I remember asking to see Justine. And when they wouldn't give me permission, I burst into tears. Tala became upset, and Tiku ordered me to go. I ran out of the large hut and turned down the sandy path toward the sea, tears blinding my eyes. When I got to the beach, I stopped to look out beyond the sparkling waters, but the tears kept coming, clouding my view. Running south along the shore on my well-worn trail, I passed cave after cave until I arrived at the large one guarded by huge Yamis warriors. Because of my tears, I could barely distinguish the guards from the palm trees, and without saying a word, flew past them into the dark. I couldn't see anything in the cave, but that only slowed me slightly because I knew my way through those passages as if they were a part of me. I rushed past one cove after the next until I heard the familiar grunts of my special dragon. In the torchlight, I was able to see her dark figure lying on the ground, and I threw myself into Justine's back and sobbed her name. I remember crying until I felt like I couldn't breathe, and I had to pound my chest and scream to get the air to flow again. I remember a guard saying roughly, "Jaden, you will wake the other dragons." I tried to slow the pain but couldn't, and buried my head in Justine's mane to muffle the sound. "Jaden," the guard repeated. I jerked my head up and glared in his direction, trying to control my breathing. I whispered to Justine between sobs, No one cares about me. I'm too different. I'm not cute like stupid Talu with his dark skin and black eyes. Oh, Justine, I'm so glad you aren't cocoa-colored. I needed you to be different, too. I hate Arabetta and Luana and Tiku." I added Tiku in almost a whisper so the guards wouldn't hear me. Then I buried my head in Justine's mane and cried myself to sleep. Jaden chuckled softly. "What awful memories, I'm sorry. Although that was one of the worst nights, it was also one of the best, because that was the first night that the man with blue eyes came to me in a dream and said, 'Jaden, you are loved.'" "That was the first dream you had with him? You were still really young." "Yes, I was 7. What happened in that dream?" "Not much. I just looked up at him and wanted to run to him, but found myself crying instead." Behind him, I saw a woman with black hair and green eyes. The blue-eyed man reached his arms out to me. Then the dream faded away. Jaden sat quietly for a moment before speaking again. I don't know why they always leave. I want them to stay. I want to understand who they are and what they're saying. When I began having the dreams, I knew I had to be free, but didn't know where to go until Xavier came. He came 3 years after my first dream when I was 10, and we were all in the large hut. I was trying to look interested as Talu received fencing lessons from a Yamis warrior. The king and queen watched proudly. A skeleton of boy came stumbling into the court. I remember gasping, not because the boy was so emaciated, but because he had skin the color of cream, and he had sandy-colored hair. The servants looked at the royal couple, and when Tiku nodded, they quickly fetched the boy. By this time, I felt more like one of the servants than a member of the royal family, though Tala and Tiku still referred to me as a princess. I rushed to the young boy with the rest of the servants. He seemed so beautiful to me. My heart ached for him and wanted more than anything to see him survive. I reached out and touched his face, but as I did, one of the guards picked him up and brought him to the servants' quarters. They had to work quickly to save him. I followed the group of servants and guards to their quarters. I knew I didn't fit in Yamis, but it hadn't crossed my mind, at least not seriously, that there were others like me, besides the people from my dream. I wanted to cry and laugh at the same time. He had to live. Xavier was almost 12 when he arrived. He had escaped with his nurse from Xenelian after his father tried to murder him because of a prophecy that Xavier would someday rise up, kill him, and take his kingdom. Jaden scoffed lightly at the irony and continued. They traveled for months in the jungles. His nurse died from exposure and starvation, having given everything to Xavier so he would make it alive to Yamis. When Xavier recovered, he was determined to return to Xenelian and overthrow his father. Tiku saw his potential and believed his tale about Canute trying to murder him. Tiku offered to help supply Xavier with whatever he needed to overthrow Canute and to take possession of Xenelian. Tiku never wanted to leave Yamis, but believed that the boy would remember him after Xavier gained rule over Xenelian. When Xavier agreed to conspire with Tiku, Tiku promised him any woman in the kingdom, and I made myself that woman. Tiku and Xavier worked together for 7 years to raise dragons, increase their wealth, and collect the rarest specimens of animal and plant in order to placate Canute. Xavier went along with it until one day, Tiku and Tala were dead. After slaying Tiku in his sleep, he sent Talu into the most southern regions of Yamis alone, confident that the dragons would finish him off. I never saw or heard of him again. Xavier actually felt somewhat close to Tala and couldn't kill her, but she saved him the trouble by poisoning herself the morning after Xavier killed Tiku. He killed them? How do you stand him? I hate Xavier more than ever. Why did you tell me this? Don't you want to know what really happened? Don't you want to know why I can no longer falsify my feelings towards him? Don't you want to know that Tiku and Tala didn't do the horrible things Xavier told you they did? Why did you let me believe those horrible things? I loved them. Should I have caused you to believe horrible things about your father instead? I don't know if I can hold my tongue any longer, Zachariah said. You have to. All of this is for you. we have handled it this long. You have handled it this long, though I don't know how. I will kill him, Mother, if I ever get a chance. No, then you will be just like him. Every time he kills someone, he sinks lower in his own filth. I've watched it. Please don't fall as he has. Please. For me. Jaden rose abruptly. She walked quickly to Justine and Danthor, Xavier's dragon, and unchained them. Mother, Zachariah said. Come with me, son, she urged. Do you think Philip will come back into the dungeon tonight? No, he was hiding something. Did you see that glowing thing on his wrist? He knows he'd have to explain it to us if he were to run into us again, and there's no fear of Xavier coming down. He will be hungover for the next 2 days. Zacharias snickered. Jaden led Justine to the back door, followed by Zachariah with Danthor. Jaden found the mild night air instantly refreshing. We've never flown together before, Zachariah said. Jaden laughed sardonically. I hope once Xavier finds out we've borrowed his dragon that we will live to do it again. They mounted the dragons and flew into the darkness, the fresh air fanning their faces. It was quiet for a long time, except for the wind whistling across the wings of the dragon. Jaden led as they flew out over the jungle toward the west ocean. For some time they coasted over the Black Sea in the moonlight, lulled by rushing wind. Later they soared over the length of the beach as the tide below ebbed and flowed. Eventually, Jaden reluctantly turned Justine back toward the castle, hoping that Zachariah would follow. She felt uncertain that he would, because he was so angry. Moments later, Zachariah flew over her, swooping down in front and spinning Danthor. Jaden followed, and she and Justine executed a perfect barrel roll. In a few minutes, they were flying around each other and racing back to the castle. Jaden stabilized Justine and let go of her mane, throwing her head and arms back, inhaling the fresh air. For that moment, at least, she was free. Thank you for spending this time with me. May these stories bring you rest, wonder, and a sense of home, the kind that lives in the bones, remembers the old paths, and lingers long after the tale ends. Until next time, may the light of life walk with you. I'll meet you again in the next story. All my love, Grandma May.